21 to 25. From verse 21 to 25. Start with the recitation, inshallah. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. واذكر أخا عاد إذ أنذر قومه بالأحقاف وقد خلت النذر من بين يديه. واذكر أخا عاد إذ أنذر قومه بالأحقاف وقد خلت النذر من بين يديه. وقد خلت النذر من بين يديه ومن خلفه ألا تعبدوا إلا الله. وقد خلت النذر من بين يديه ومن خلفه ألا تعبدوا إلا الله إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم. إني أخاف عليكم عذاب يوم عظيم. قالوا أجئتنا لتأفكنا عن آلهتنا فأتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين. قالوا أجئتنا لتأفكنا عن آلهتنا فأتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين. قال إنما العلم عند الله وأبلغكم ما أرسلت به. قال إنما العلم عند الله وأبلغكم ما أرسلت به ولكني أراكم قوما تجهلون. وأبلغكم ما أرسلت به ولكني أراكم قوما تجهلون. فلما رأوه عارضا مستقبل أوديتهم قالوا هذا عارض ممطرنا بل هو ما استعجلتم به ريح فيها عذاب أليم تدمر كل شيء بأمر ربها فأصبحوا لا يرى إلا مساكنهم كذلك نجزي القوم المجرمين. Translation: and mentioned the brother of Ad when he warned his people in the Ahqaf, and warners had already passed on before him and after him, saying, do not worship except Allah. Indeed, I fear for you the punishment of a terrible day. They said, have you come to delude us away from our gods? Then bring us what you promise us if you should be of the truthful. He said, knowledge is only with Allah, and I convey to you that with which I was sent, but I see you to be a people behaving ignorantly. And when they saw it as a cloud approaching their valleys, they said, this is a cloud bringing us rain. Rather, it is that for which you were impatient, a wind within a painful punishment, destroying everything by command of its Lord, and they became so that nothing was seen of them except their dwellings. Thus do we recompense the criminal people. So now these verses talks about the people of Ad, and that's what the surah is called, Al-Ahqaf. So, وَاذْكُرْ أَخَا عَادٍ, and it's all go together from what's mentioned before, from the beginning of the surah about the Quran, the miraculous nature of the Quran, the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling the disbelievers to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, mentioning the arrogance of the disbelievers rejecting the truth, and then the command of Allah for people to be steadfast upon the deen of Allah, giving the glad tidings to the believers, talking about being kind to the parents and how all of these things are together, and to be grateful to Allah by also being grateful to the parents, and mentioning the two types of people with regards to this, and then reminding the believers and also the disbelievers that on the day of judgment, when they're presented to the hellfire, it will be said to them, you made your tayyibat, your good things, to go away. That means you wasted your life, and now they're going to be recompensed in the day of judgment by the justice of Allah because of their arrogance. And the arrogance is mentioned again. Because of their arrogance and their defiant disobedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Then a real example, a practical example to the nations before. And this is how human beings, they act. They get admonished, they get reminded by giving an example. After giving the instructions, then giving an example from the nations before to show that the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always repeated and it would never change whatsoever. And the word wadhkur and remember. When we hear in the Quran, وَإِذْ قَالَ, إِذْ also give the meaning that and remember. But here wadhkur, it's mentioned directly, so that it's meant to be very stressed here. Wadhkur, and mention Akha Adin. The Ad is Akha Ad, the brother of Ad is Hud. So but this is Prophet Hud, but the Prophet Hud is not mentioned in his name, with his name. He's mentioned with his name in Surah Hud only. So here Akha Adin, and the people of Ad are mentioned so many times in the Quran. So Akha Ad, the brother of Hud, which shows also that he is one of them, he is one of their brothers, he's someone that cares for them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent messengers from among the people, they know him, they know his lineage, they know who he is, they know his akhlaq and so on. وَاذْكُرْ أَخَا عَادٍ إِذْ أَنذَرَ قَوْمَهُ بِالْأَحْقَافِ. إِذْ, when he أَنذَرَ, warned his people, بِالْأَحْقَافِ. And أَنذَر is mentioned, the warning is mentioned alone without al-bishara or giving glad tidings. And the warning is mentioned throughout the surah. So as important as giving glad tidings is to be given to the believers, or to be given to those. If you believe, this is what's going to happen to you, this is the good news. But if you don't, then he warned them. And this is the nasiha, this is the honesty and the concern that every prophet had to his people. And as we said, as it clearly stated in the Quran, those who have the best concern to their people are those who would warn them and also give them the good news. But those who only talk about nice things, they don't want to displease people, they are doing a terrible job for them, they are betraying them, and they would curse them at the end. Why? Because they did not warn them of something that they knew about it is going to happen, and they didn't do anything about it. Regardless whether they would accept it or not, but the person would do his job, as it's going to be mentioned in the ayat. إِذْ أَنذَرَ قَوْمَهُ بِالْأَحْقَافِ. And al-Ahqaf here, this is the place where they lived. And it's the plural of Haqf, which is the mountain of sand. And some said it's the place where, like, refers to the mountain or the cave. And it's a valley, and was said to be in Yemen. All kinds of things, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. And we keep it the way it's mentioned in the Quran. So this is showing or mentioning their place. وَقَدْ خَلَتِ النُّذُرُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ. قَدْ خَلَت, indeed خَلَت, past. النُّذُر, also from al-indar, from warning. النُّذُر, the warners. So that this is not the first warner that came to them. Before him, من بين يديه ومن خلفه, after him and before him. Constant warners that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent, messengers of Allah. 124,000 prophets of Allah and over 300 messengers of Allah. And after the Prophet ﷺ, the responsibility for warning humanity is upon this ummah of the Prophet ﷺ. The responsibility for this ummah is not to just relax and to sit back and to see what's happening. They need to, some of them, not all of them, a group of them, they need to fulfill and continue the job of the messengers of Allah. And if a group of them are fulfilling this obligation, then the rest are not sinful. But if it's not, then the ummah becomes sinful in the sense that they need to warn and to give the good news of what's going to happen in the hereafter. They are the most lenient and the most people that you would feel secure around them in this world. They don't want to harm anyone in this life, but they warn of what's going to happen in the day of judgment if people continue to disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, وَقَدْ خَلَتِ النُّذُرُ مِنْ بَيْنِ يَدَيْهِ وَمِنْ خَلْفِهِ أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهِ. What's the nudhur? What's the warning? أَلَّا تَعْبُدُوا إِلَّا اللَّهِ. Do not worship other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the warning, and with it is the command of Allah. Do not worship any but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. إِنِّي أَخَافُ عَلَيْكُمْ عَذَابَ يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ. I fear for you a punishment in يَوْمٍ عَظِيمٍ, in a great day, which is the day of judgment. This is the warning, not about worldly benefit or worldly gain. The dua to Allah, the messengers of Allah, they didn't want anything from the people from this worldly life. They want what is best for them. They don't want for themselves anything, no fame, no status, no money, nothing. They just want to advise them and to warn them. And as you see, we learn from the Quran what to warn people from, not what we think we should warn people from. This is to warn them against a shirk and to give them the glad tidings upon the tawheed and to warn them of the day of judgment. Always al-iman billah wal yawm al-akhir, believing in Allah and the last day. They're always together. That perfects everything else. If people worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, believing in the day of judgment, having that certainty, then everything falls in place. So, and here wadhkur is mentioning him with a good way, the people of Ad and what Hud said to them. The response of the people, because at the time we're late, قالوا أجئتنا لتأفكنا عن آلهتنا فأتنا بما تعدنا إن كنت من الصادقين. They said to him, قالوا أجئتنا, you came to us لتأفكنا عن آلهتنا. تأفكنا is to al-ifk. You know, al-ifk is the false speech or lies. But here لتأفكنا, to take us away from our gods by your lies. Basically, لتأفكنا, or to push us away from what we're doing. قالوا أجئتنا لتأفكنا عن آلهتنا, away from آلهتنا in the plural. These gods that they worship besides Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they have no evidence to it whatsoever. They cannot even trace it back to a prophet, or even if it's a made-up prophet. There's no way for them to say there's a prophet called so and so, and this is his book, and this is what he was revealed to him, to worship other than Allah. There's no such a thing. And there's no one can trace anything to a messenger of Allah that he called the people to associate partners with Allah. فَأْتِنَا بِمَا تَعِدُنَا إِن كُنْتَ مِنَ الصَّادِقِينَ. So bring to us what you promise us if you are from the truthful ones. And this is all over the Quran. They always ask as a way of mockery, okay, you're warning of a punishment that it will come, okay, bring it. Making mockery of the truth and the promise of the truth. يستعجل بها الذين لا يؤمنون بها والذين آمنوا مشفقون منها, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Those do not believe in it, يستعجل بها الذين لا يؤمنون بها, they are in haste. They always say, bring the punishment if you are truthful. وَالَّذِينَ آمَنُوا, and the believers مُشْفِقُونَ مِنْهَا. The believers, they are in state of concern and worried about it because they believe in it and they know what has been mentioned about the day of judgment. So, and they would claim all kinds of lies that you want the authority from us, you want to be in charge, you envy us because of what we have. All of these things is mentioned in the Quran, where the disbelievers, they would say all these types of things to push away people from the truth. And the messengers of Allah, they would show them clearly that they want nothing of this. They want guidance from them, and they seek rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So, لِتَأْفِكَنَا here, as it's mentioned in Tafseer, has one meaning: to remove us from worshipping these idols with lies, and the second thing is to make us away from worshipping them by preventing us. Right? So either by preventing us from it or by lying to us. And the thing is that they don't want to change is their religion or their forefathers. The response is قال إنما العلم عند الله وأبلغكم ما أرسلت به ولكني أراكم قوما تجهلون. قال إنما العلم عند الله. He said, indeed the ilm is by Allah. Whether you're going to be punished now or later, this is not the job of the messengers. The ilm, the knowledge is by Allah. They only get to know if Allah revealed to them. And as we mentioned, Nuh alayhi salam calling his people for 950 years, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him, وَأُوحِيَ إِلَى نُوحٍ أَنَّهُ لَا يُؤْمِنَ مِنْ قَوْمِكَ إِلَّا مَنْ قَدْ آمَنَ. After all of this, it was revealed to Nuh that only those who believed are the only believers, and none will believe afterwards. So the messengers of Allah, they do not know when the punishment is going to come. They only warn the people. قال إنما العلم عند الله. And the perfect adab and manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وقال إنما العلم عند الله وأبلغكم ما أرسلت به. I'm only conveying, أبلغ البلاغ, I'm conveying to you what I have been sent with. إن عليك إلا البلاغ. You have nothing but to convey the message. And this is one of the things when a person reflects. Why people, when they're receiving the balagh and the conveyance of the message, they get so much in war against those who convey the message to them. They don't want nothing from them. If someone walks in and says to the people something, even if they disbelieve in it, why do you become enemies to them? Right? And you try to kill the prophets and you this and that. It doesn't even make sense from the human sense. But it's all the ways of shayateen, and this is the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. They're always going to be opposing the truth, or at least some of them. So, وَأُبَلِّغُكُمْ مَا أُرْسِلْتُ بِهِ. I'm doing nothing except to convey the message to you, no forcing anyone to believe. He's just warning them. وَلَكِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ قَوْمًا تَجْهَلُونَ. But indeed, I see you, قَوْمًا تَجْهَلُونَ, people of ignorance, you do not understand. Why? Because whoever does not react to a warning, he does not understand. He has problems in his way of thinking and articulating things. At least they have to take it serious. And as we mentioned that before, human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them, every single human being. If you warn them of something, those who have proper senses, they would take measures. They don't take warnings lightly, even if it's a lie, even if it's a false thing. And we said that if someone calls an institution saying there's this or that in the building, what happens? They don't take these things lightly. They would lose so much money, but every single warning has to be taken in a very serious way. This is how human beings are. So therefore, if someone warns, and people do not take his warning, and then something happens, who's going to be blamed? The ones that received the warnings and that didn't do anything about it. And they will be in big trouble. They would lose their job. They might even go to jail for it. Because they did not react to a warning that people do not even know where the source of it. Right? So imagine that the source of it is one of them, the best among them. And he is aided by miracles. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent them, and He's giving them clear warnings. And they don't react to it. Well, this is jahl, this is ignorance. Then they are the ones to be blamed. And if they would take it seriously and their hearts are concerned about this, they would see that this is the ultimate truth, and they will be by the will of Allah guided. وَلَكِنِّي أَرَاكُمْ قَوْمًا تَجْهَلُونَ. And the justice in the speech of Hud alayhi salam. Then what happened? And of course there are maybe days or years passed in this, and the other surahs in the Quran describes that he told them, when they warned them that they're going to do this and this to him. He said, bring all of the people, do whatever you want, because he has Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with him, and bring and plot and do not wait. So the punishment when it came in the next verse, فَلَمَّا رَأَوْهُ عَارِضًا مُسْتَقْبِلَ أَوْدِيَتِهِمْ قَالُوا هَذَا عَارِضٌ مُمْطِرُنَا بَلْ هُمَ اسْتَعْجَلْتُمْ بِهِ رِيحٌ فِيهَا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. فَلَمَّا رَأَوْهُ, when they saw, عَارِضًا, al-'arid here refers to the clouds coming. Al-'arid, when something is present, something comes in, al-'ard is the width of something. So something is coming their way, which is here the clouds coming in the horizon like that in the skies. فلما رأوه عارضا مستقبل أوديتهم. And this ta'arud was what? Was a punishment. The punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is coming, and they're not still seeing it as punishment. They see it as clouds coming. So this is rain, and they were very happy. Al-Ahqaf is what? The people of Al-Ahqaf, sand, mountains of sand. So the clouds to them is the day of Eid. When they see the clouds are coming and there's going to be water and things like this, so they become very happy. فلما رأوه عارضا مستقبل أوديتهم قالوا هذا عارض ممطرنا. This is the عارض, this is what's coming here, is going to be giving rain to us. And they were happy, and this is how the disbelievers, they rejoice ignorantly, not seeing what's beyond their rejoice and their happiness. And the opposite of that is the believers, when they're happy because they see also the outcome of it. So even when there is rain, they react to it in the proper way. They're happy when they see the rain, but they also become worried. What if in the same thing is their own destruction? We see that with floods and things like this, right? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect all the Muslims all over the world and everyone. But here also the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam, he used to say this ayah whenever the clouds would come. The face of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam would change. See one ayah, and he's the Prophet of Allah, and how that affects him. And we see the rain and the clouds and the storm, and we don't get affected. Even if you don't, inshallah, nothing is going to happen. And the Prophet ﷺ, the best person ever, when he would see the clouds coming, it would be shown on his face ﷺ, and they would say to him, everybody is happy because of this. And the Prophet ﷺ, he said that this is something was punishment for people. You know, this was something that he remembers what happened to the people of Hud. Just the fact that this was remembering how the people, when they saw it, they were happy, and the punishment came to them in the form of something that they would rejoice over. بَلْ هُوَ مَسْتَعْجَلْتُمْ بِهِ. He said to them, this is what you have been asking for. This is the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. بَلْ هُوَ مَسْتَعْجَلْتُمْ بِهِ رِيحٌ فِيهَا عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. Wind that has a painful punishment. Alim, painful. مَسْتَعْجَلْتُمْ بِهِ, what you're in haste of, which is what they said. فَأْتِنَا بِمَا تَعِدُنَا. They said, they brought it to themselves. Bring what you promised us, if you are from among the Sadiqeen. So then after that, the ayah تُدَمِّرُ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ بِأَمْرِ رَبِّهَا فَأَصْبَحُوا لَا يُرَى إِلَّا مَسَاكِنُهُمْ كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْقَوْمَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ. تُدَمِّر, it destroys. And tadmir is when something is destroyed, that means it's not valid to be used anymore. It's not like you break it and you can fix it. No, it becomes into pieces that you cannot bring it back together. تُدَمِّرُ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ, everything. كُلَّ شَيْءٍ بِأَمْرِ رَبِّهَا, by the command of its Lord. This wind is not just comes by itself like this. This is by the command of Allah. And even if it comes as a breeze or a storm or does not cause destruction, it's all by the command of Allah. And the Prophet ﷺ, he would say something when he feels the wind. He would say, Allahumma inni as'aluka khayraha wa khayra ma ursilat bih wa a'udhu bika min sharriha wa sharri ma ursilat bih. Oh Allah, I ask you the best of it and what it's been sent for. And I seek refuge in you from the evil of it and what's the evil that it comes with. So interacting with the universe around us, knowing that this is all maintained by the actions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is one of the levels of the dhikr of Allah. That the heart is this constant dhikr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, remembrance of Allah in everything that we see. Last night we were talking about, if you have one of the benefits of memorizing some of these verses of the Quran, remember some of these verses when you see a sign of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A verse that talks about the rain, for example, remember it. Even if you recite it, when you see the rain, it has an effect. Because you see the ayah of Allah with your eyes and you recite what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed, and so on. So this is how the believers, they become the perfect human beings when they interact with the ayat and the signs from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So تُدَمِّرُ كُلَّ شَيْءٍ, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also said about them in Surah Al-Dhariyat, مَا تَذَرُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ أَتَتْ عَلَيْهِ إِلَّا جَعَلَتْهُ كَالرَّمِيمِ. The wind did not pass upon anything unless it made it كَالرَّمِيمِ. Al-Ramim is something when it's already been so old and it's been destroyed. This is how it made everything like this. فَأَصْبَحُوا لَا يُرَى إِلَّا مَسَاكِنُ. أصبحوا, that what happened is the outcome, or الصباح in the morning, that means it refers to the outcome very near. What happened to them after this wind came to them, they're only seen from them their dwellings, their homes only. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed for them. That means they all died except empty houses without its people. كَذَلِكَ نَجْزِي الْقَوْمَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ. This is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said we recompense, we punish الْقَوْمَ الْمُجْرِمِينَ, the criminal ones. The disbelievers, not just disbelievers, criminal ones. They reject the truth, they have enmity towards the people of the truth, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroyed them. And this is something that is going to be repeated. And the moment of death is the real misery for those who disbelieve in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In other surahs, of course, it talks about more details of the people of Ad, but we need to focus on what's mentioned here to get the effect of what the surah is calling us to be upon. So here the significance of mentioning the rain when they were rejoicing versus where they are from, and how happy they were when it was in the midst of this happiness, is the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In what they are happy with is the punishment coming from the same from the same thing. Like it's like when Fir'aun raised Musa alayhi salam to be of help for him and to rejoice and things like this, and it was his own destruction in Musa alayhi salam. فَالْتَقَطَهُ آلُ فِرْعَوْنَ لِيَكُونَ لَهُمْ عَدُوًّا وَحَزَنًا. They picked him for Musa alayhi salam to be their enemies. So whoever think that the disbelievers or the evil ones, they have matters in their hands and they will get things whatever they decided for, their destruction comes from the same plan that they make. It does not come from anything far, from their own planning, from their own ways. For those who plot evil, whether it's an individual level or major levels, the plot goes in circle and comes back onto them. وَلَا يَحِيقُ الْمَكْرُ السَّيِّئُ إِلَّا بِأَهْلِهِ. The evil plotting, it does not do anything except that it goes around and it returns to the person himself. But it takes time, no problem, but they would see the outcome of their actions unless they repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Also the verses shows again the importance of warning, and that the warners, the earth would never be empty from warners. There's always going to be warners on the face of earth, and it's part of the duties that if a person wants to be in the highest level, be among those who give glad tidings and warn to be upon the deen of Allah, and to give this the way of the deen to the next generation to come. So at times when there are so much less, a person should be among those who are less, because when it becomes abundance in number, those who are in less, they were the mean for that deen to be kept on the face of earth, since there's no more messengers to come. The subject of the warning is warning against shirk, is to be upon the tawheed of Allah, and to add to it all of what's mentioned in the verses. Also the benefit, a great benefit, is that those who are upon disbelief, they're upon nothing, but they're so much stubborn with whatever they're upon, not for any reason, but for the fact that this is their forefathers' ways and things like this. The jobs of the messengers, conveying the message, and being just and being clear to the people. He even said to them, I see you that you are people of ignorance. Is that against being lenient to them? No, it's not. There's a difference between being lenient and being deceiving to the people. Sometimes a person has to make it very clear to them. He's not cursing them in a vulgar way. He's showing to them that clearly what he's warning them from, and you seem like you're ignorant. You don't understand what is being said. Different than those who would please the people. Their concern is not to make people mad and angry with them. So they would only make them hear what they like. And then again the punishment came, and the reaction of the Prophet ﷺ, which we should follow the way the Prophet ﷺ in the way that we interact with everything around us, and not to be in haste. But to being in haste is a bad thing. العجلة من الشيطان. And this is one of the characteristics of the disbelievers, and how the criminal ones, they will be recompensed according to the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The next verse, which inshallah ta'ala will do it either tonight or tomorrow, because we need to make sure that we finish the surah inshallah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would mention in it the way of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth. So this is the people of Ad. Well, it's not going to be something only for the people of Ad, it's for everybody. And this is what the next ayah would talk about inshallah. صلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وصحبه وسلم. تفضل.
When the cloud comes and rains, we feel happy.
Right.
This is when it's hot and with the kids, when it's raining, we go outside and we feel happy and we get wet. So we should not be doing it.
Very good. When it rains, when it's hot and then it rains, we feel happy. And this is, we get even the kids out and things like this. We should be happy. No, we should be happy. And this is what you have. Two things that always have to be present. There is the normal, the tab'a, the normal thing of the human being, our innate, what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us with, and the religious aspect of things. And both need to be present in the heart. So when a person is happy because of the rain, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that those who, when the rain comes to them, after they have qunut and they have disparity from the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they rejoice. So there's nothing wrong with being happy, but at the same time, we have the capacity as human beings to bring in our hearts to remember the nations before. It's not like every time we're going to say to everybody, look, Allah punished these people, but to have this in our heart that we remember also that some people get punished by the same thing that we're happy with. So both to be present, and it's a reminder while a person is happy. In anything, if a person is happy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he passed an exam, it's a normal thing to be happy, but also at the same time to remember the happiness in the hereafter. The heart is always working with matters of religious things related to the wahy, and to have both is what is perfect. And this is very good, so that nobody will understand that we should make it a sad occasion when it's a normal thing that a person is happy when the rain comes. People should be happy. You go out and you get some rain barakah on one's head, no problem with this. But at the same time to remember this.
Is it sunnah to read the ayah like يُسَبِّحْ حَمْدِ رَبِّهِ وَمَلَائِكَتِهِ?
No, it is from the sunnah when you hear the thunder, is that you say the ayah يُسَبِّحُ الرَّعْدُ بِحَمْدِهِ وَمَلَائِكَتُهُ مِنْ خِيفَتِهِ. That the ra'd, the thunder, is making tasbih to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the angels, they do that out of the fear of Allah. So it's from the sunnah to say.
You said we had the responsibility to spread the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not all of us. What does that mean?
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ. Let be a group of you, they invite people to the khair. From a ruling perspective, not like we should be upon this. As far as the minimum requirement is, this is one of the furud al-kifayat, fard kifayat. The da'wah to Allah is not mandatory upon every person. It's mandatory upon the ummah to fulfill this need. And if it's not fulfilled, then the entire ummah is responsible. And it's not fulfilled, of course, because the message is not reaching people. People are getting a distorted message. Almost everybody knows about Islam, but how many people, they don't know about what Islam is? They have a distorted message of what the deen of Islam is. And should we blame others? No, we should blame ourselves. We're not conveying the message, at least conveying the message. Of course, and people, this is how human beings, when you convey a message, they look at the one that is conveying it, and not just what he says. And that's why we have the messengers of Allah, they were the best among the people. So this together should...
So the group of the people who should be spreading the message, they should have enough knowledge to spread, not every person.
Of course, yes. And the message is of course, the deen of Islam is so many things, but here when it comes to the tawheed of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, calling people to the tawheed of Allah, warning them from shirk. Another thing is there's no such a thing as a group where people would make a group. It's not like people, let's form a group and we have a leader and that doesn't know. This is not the way for the common people to do, but rather every person to do the best he can. And the people of authority, then they do whatever also in their capacity. And again, to convey the haqq, to convey the truth, each one according to their capacity.
So basically, we all should be a part of that group. We should try our best to be a part of that group, so we all can spread message, right?
Right, but the group, what is the definition of the group is the action itself. So any action of da'wah, a person support printing Quran, for example, spreading the Quran among the people, translation, calling people to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, showing people, being concerned about how people will get to know the deen of Islam. This is a duty.
This is the duty of
The ummah need to be, it's a duty upon the ummah of the Prophet. If some fulfill all of this, then it's